Okay, I've begun the recording. So this is the Faculty Advisory Committee meeting, September 2025. Hi, all. I guess we can begin with the approval of the agenda. Let me share that. I don't know if I'm sharing the right. Am I sharing correctly? Are you seeing the agenda?
Yep,
Okay,
it looks
perfect.
good.
It went to the other screen. All right, so we have approval of the minutes. We can scratch that. We do not have minutes for this meeting. My fault. The recording wasn't up. Approval of the agenda, the chair's report, system leadership, and Brendan, we weren't sure whether you were going to be here, so let's make that chair and vice chair, chair's report. System leadership changes. I actually don't have much to say about that, but we can at least keep that on the agenda and have any, discussion we might need to have. Credit and debit card payment policy, I believe that was, I'm hoping that Lois, you'll be able to lead that. I think it was you who kind of brought that to our attention. CSU resolution on gender affirming care, we don't actually have that text yet, but I think Brendan is going to introduce it. And then we'll actually consider it at some other time. Curriculum and shared governance, again, we can just figure out what there is to talk about and have much of that discussion with our working groups, old new business and adjournment. So any modifications necessary to the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve then?
I'll make a motion to approve. This is Jen.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second Matt.
Okay, and okay, and my apologies. That would be a motion to approve with the striking of the approval of the minutes since we don't need it. But okay, and all in favor? Any opposed? All right, let's get going then. So I guess I'll start with a report. And really, I think all there really is to report on is, so the board was basically out for the summer. We unofficially were also. So their first meeting of the academic year was August 28th. I'll just go over just a few things that we learned from that meeting and a couple that I learned from this morning's ASA meeting, which actually is not much other than to say that there are definitely increases in enrollment across the system in various areas, certainly in CT State, in many different categories of students, et cetera. So that is at least hopeful news there. As far as system-wide, there is, as we all know, so former President Meduco is now serving as interim chancellor of the system. So we had our first meeting with him as chancellor. And one of the things that he addressed in the beginning of the last meeting was that they'll be standing up an HR1 working group. So this is the so-called Big Beautiful Bill and its effects on us. I think one of the things that was emphasized by everyone is that it's just too early to know how we're going to be affected. Like we don't know yet. We do know a few things, but it's still to be determined. So that working group is being formed and will sort of try to get a sense of how we're going to be affected and how we can respond to that. In addition, there is a transparency committee that he'll be standing up, which I think is right in line with what the sorts of things that FAC has been asking for years and years. We can remind you of the org chart that we asked for. I want to say it's been about a decade that we've been asking for that and have not been provided with anything intelligible or current yet. We've also been asking for some way to understand the way that the block grant is dispersed and then the way that chargebacks to the system office are administered. And we've never really gotten a clear idea of that so that we can figure out where money's going. So that seems like a positive sort of move, and hopefully we'll have some participation in the sorts of things that the sorts of reports that will come out of that group, if not participation in the actual group itself. Okay, so for a nice little summary of the effects of HR1, page 14 of the August 28th BOR packet has a bit of a breakdown, or at least that's where the breakdown begins. It goes on for quite some time. But again, the emphasis is that we don't know enough yet, and we're working on it. Each of the institutional presidents gave reports, sort of preliminary commentary on how they're being affected. And it's really interesting to hear the differences in sort of attitudes, right? Some folks emphasize sort of the financial and administrative burdens and impact. There were, commentary on culture, commentary on just various different ways to come at it. But I will tell you, among the things that I heard, for example, Central definitely pointed out that there is, in particular, one graduate program that would be so affected by the changes and the limitations on graduate borrowing that they stand to perhaps have an impact of about $10 million a year if there isn't some sort of intervention. And that, one of the things that HR1 introduces is a reporting requirement for per program, per institution, that 4 years out from graduation, it's a comparison of, so graduates 4 years out after they've been in the workforce with high school graduates the average income of high school graduates between ages 25 and 34. So the sort of the income of your graduates and your programs compared with high school graduates 25 to 34 is compared. And if it isn't a sufficient benefit to students, then financial aid may not be available to those students. And again, like a lot of this stuff may change, who knows? But at the moment, even just the burden of having that kind of reporting is significant to each of these institutions. I know Charter Oak definitely emphasized that as a significant burden to just even produce these reports, much less what impacts might be had. I think it was at Western, it was pointed out that a lot of these sort of arts and music programs that they support, it's very hard to understand and compare income in the ways that folks make their money in those fields. So, so there are lots of challenges there. At Eastern, I know that there was a conversation, just, part of things that stood out to me was just that, folks are realizing that they're actually talking about safety as opposed to sort of, academic aspirations with new students, with new immigrant students, et cetera. But that there was an emphasis from Eastern on the fact that there should be no changes to what is taught, or any pressure to think that there should be changes to what is taught and how it is taught based on this bill. And I think that was, really reassuring to hear that very clearly stated. There were others. I mean, I believe it was right near, like, feet from Western, there was a sort of mass ICE arrest recently. So there's, a lot of fear on campus, a lot of discussion about how to approach these sorts of things. I think that because of that fear, the emphasis on that campus appears to be sort of de-escalating the narrative, right? The fear itself is a bit of the issue. And then, at Southern, we heard things about just sort of the struggle of figuring out of how to split the difference between people who want a vocal statement in resistance to every harmful effect, and others who really think that the more effective mode of resistance or survival might be to keep your head down and just figure out how to act more effectively. So yeah, CT State, our president, I think, is days in, not even a full month in, and still sort of getting the lay of the land and wanting to get a little bit more feedback from our campuses before really making a lot of statements. But that's the general sort of gist of the kinds of things we were getting in terms of those effects. There will be a legislative higher ed committee meeting on September 9th, which is next Tuesday at 1 p.m. And that hearing will be focused again on the effects of that bill or federal modifications on higher ed. So, and I'll be teaching at that time, but I'm going to jump in once my class is done to just the live YouTube or whatever. But I think that might be worth checking out. And that is in advance of the special session, the legislative special session that is anticipated. It was first anticipated maybe at the end of September to mid-October. It's looking like it might be pushed more towards the end of October now. So we will see, but there are all kinds of things. I don't know if you've been following the news on that. I don't think anybody really knows what's being considered, but certainly there will need to be some sort of intervention in terms of making funding available to any number of areas. I think it was our president at Southern who pointed out that just the other cuts in state funding, state services are going to affect our students' ability to be students significantly, right? We know that there's the Medicaid cuts. We've got, all kinds of social services that are, dealing with emergencies right now. So I do hope that that special session will free up quite a bit of money. We keep discovering new, unanticipated surpluses in the budget. We've got money that, if not acted upon before the end of October, will be transferred to prepay our, pension liabilities. But it's a big chunk of change that can intervene right now. So that's what will happen if the special session doesn't find a solution for that. And there's quite a bit of money that's potentially available then. So hopefully the combination of this higher ed committee meeting and special session might put us in a slightly different position financially that will free up some money for higher ed. But I will say that the focus is completely on the effects of the federal situation, and not necessarily yet, at least, about addressing the crises created in higher ed by the state, the ongoing situation in the state budget. So we'll have more work to do to kind of push things in that direction. Okay, so let's see. So special session, September 9th, we talked about transparency committee. I think that is all I have in mind right now, with the exception of just please make note of the fact that, so I sent out the request for governance chairs from community colleges so that we can get from the community college campuses so that we can get our roster set for next January. And a request for the two working groups, FAC working groups, that we might want to put together just to look at sort of shared governance-y type stuff and curriculum stuff. And then also whether we have some stuff to say about the composition of the board and the funding situation. Those will be helpful. And this is as we move towards our joint meeting with the board is scheduled for mid-November, November 14th. So it'd be nice to get all of that stuff together before that and put something really nice together for them. So yeah, that's all I have. Brendan?
Hi, everyone. just have a few things
So
I wanted
you're
to
not
offer.
muted, Brendan, but I can't hear you. Or is that me or is that everyone else?
It sounds muffled to me too.
Muffled. Let me see if I can switch one setting. I might be able to do this quickly.
That was definitely me. Now we can. Sorry
Oh.
about that.
Change the setting. So is it okay now? Okay. Just a couple of things I wanted to offer. Because the agenda item related to gender affirming care in the state is now more informative, I'd just like to try to introduce that subject at this point in the agenda. Over the summer, two healthcare institutions in Connecticut, Yale New Haven and Connecticut Children's, ended certain gender affirming care for their patient populations, specifically including 18-year-olds who are adults. So unlike other adults in the state of Connecticut, 18-year-olds were no longer able to access or are no longer able to access certain gender affirming care at Yale and Connecticut Children's. This became a concern to faculty at the CSUs because without access to that care, certain members of our student population will certainly find it much more difficult to effectively learn and study and thrive on our campuses. And this even extends to these so-called early college experiences, which take place both on our campuses and in high schools. So as far as I know, there are maybe only one or two institutions left that are still making this care available to 18-year-olds in the state. There's a working group of CSU AUP faculty who have come together to express our concern about the impact of this decision, which was in response to an executive order. The impact of this decision on our students, our communities, and also to suggest that or ask the question, is management putting together resources to support students when this kind of thing is happening? Our working group met for the first time this week. I was not able to attend. I'm in a time zone much different from Eastern right now. So I did not want to go forward with the resolution until our working group said, yes, go ahead with this, or I knew that they had, but hopefully in the near future, the FAC will be able to consider a resolution regarding this issue because it's really an adverse development for students who deserve to be supported so that they could thrive on our campuses. I have a couple of more items, but I see Jen Long's hand is up. So Jen, happy to hear.
Thanks. I was just wondering, who is in the working group? Is it a faculty-led working group or could you clarify?
Sure. So yeah, sure. So last year at the CSU AUP for the first time participated in the Middletown Pride Parade. And so we had a group of our members involved in sort of the logistics and promoting that event at our campuses. And then when this dropped in the summer, that group gathered again to talk about the impact on our students and things that we might be able to do or suggest to management in order to address this issue. So yes, it is CSU AUP faculty, and our members also include coaches. It's open to any CSU AUP members, which includes coaches and librarians and faculty, full and part-time faculty. So, happy to also share a draft if you have a similar working group at CT State. So you can also kind of think about this and weigh in on what we might pass by way of a resolution. But I think it's really important that we speak out in this moment where certain adults are being targeted for erosion of their access to healthcare in Connecticut. So did that answer your question, Jen?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Okay. The second issue I wanted to just mention, a letter went to the three of the four CSU presidents. I will mention two of them are fairly new to the job. President Bulmer, who is an interim at Southern, and President Bernal, who is the new president at Western. CSU AUP officers sent a letter to Presidents Toro, Bulmer, Bernal, and Chancellor Meduco expressing our deep concern over the way that members of Local 217 Unite Here, the cafeteria workers, are being mistreated on those campuses. I want to make it clear that it is a contractor, Sodexo, who is not making adequate progress at the bargaining table in terms of securing a contract for cafeteria workers. Again, you know, our colleagues who work in the cafeteria systems are extremely important in providing an environment which allows our students to succeed. We know that food insecurity is already causing a great deal of challenges for our population of learners. And so to have the Sodexo not adequately making progress with cafeteria workers is a real problem from an academic perspective. So in this letter, the officers of CSU AAUP have asked management to do what they can to foster some progress on those negotiations so that cafeteria workers can come to an agreement with Sodexo and our students can go to cafeterias and you know, experience cafeterias with an understanding that workers there are being treated fairly. So just wanted to share that with everybody. I do not believe there's been a response yet from management, but that letter was just sent September 3rd. The final sort of thing I wanted to mention about the last BOR meeting, CSU AUP President Louise Williams pointed out that many weeks ago, she emailed Interim Chancellor Meduco asking for a meeting. He never responded to that email. Eventually, after Louise Williams mentioned this during public comment, he did reach out to her, but that meeting has still not been scheduled. And it's obviously quite troubling that the CSUs are being ignored in terms of their union when it comes to a meeting with Interim Chancellor Meduco. I do understand that the Chancellor has done a great job with outreach to the Senate presidents, but it's important to understand that 3 out of the 4 Senates are not only representative of faculty perspectives. In fact, Senate presidents have as constituents both faculty as well as staff, as well as management themselves, because they vote in the Senates, 3 out of the 4. So hopefully that meeting with Chancellor Meduco can happen soon. I do understand he picked up this job, and it is a big job over the summer, but I think we'd be able to do much better by way of collaboration going into the special session that Kalina mentioned if we actually were talking with one another. So yeah, that's what I have by way of my remarks. Thank you for your time. And yeah.
Okay. should we move on to the next item? There's no, okay. No discussion here. All right, so I think the next thing is new system leadership. And I mean, all I really have is just to make sure that we're all aware of all the various new folks in the system. But I don't know if there's anything further to be discussed. I know that, you know, there might be. So I would say so we know that we have now Chancellor Meduco, right? Moving over from president of CT State to be interim for this year, interim chancellor. And then at the universities, there's Dr. Jesse Bernal at Western, Sandra Bulmer at Southern, who I believe is still interim. Is that correct? Right? Because they're redoing that search. Dr. Christina Royale, also interim, standing in for Dr. Meduco during this year. And then at CT State, there are 7 new presidential roles in that shared campus model, right? So we're calling her Dr. Ellen Wang. I'm afraid to butcher her actual name at Gateway. But Mike Rook, Mary Ellen Jukowski, Kamari Collins, Joshua Moon Johnson, Cheryl Mathis, and Cheryl Devon. So a couple of those names are familiar. They've been around for a while. I think Mike Rook has been a president, then a CEO, then a president or something, but he's been around. So Three Rivers has some consistency, Norwalk has some consistency, but this shared president model is on its way now, so we'll see how that goes. Is there anything that we might want to discuss about either those search processes, where we stand with interims, or even just what the first few days of a shared president might be like? I am at Gateway where we do not have that situation. I know we'd had our first PD day as a full college for CT State, which was, fun. It'll get better, I'm sure. I hope. So yeah, and anyone have anything to share thus far? John, go ahead.
Yeah, so we just actually this morning had or starting at noon, had a combined potluck with Three Rivers. I'm at Quinnebog, and Mary Ellen Jukowski, who's been the CEO of Three Rivers for some time now, is now the president of Quinnebog and Three Rivers. I think my experience so far seems to jive with many of my colleagues, that Mary Ellen has been immediately responsive to when we have reached out, and her responses have been substantive. They actually say something and invite more conversation. Unlike some interactions maybe with administrators over the years. So it's early. I think she's the great person for the job. But I still have qualms about the job itself, the wisdom of combining presidents to oversee 2 or more campuses. For 50 years, there was a president or a CEO at Quinnebog and one at Three Rivers. And now, however you slice and dice or try to make nuanced distinctions between what a CEO does and a president does, is still now one person, however great they are, trying to do the job of what has long been 2 people. So we'll see. But so far, so good.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, so I guess moving on to the next item. So the credit debit card payment policy. I did not get a chance to look at much of this. So I know, Lois, you brought this to our attention. Could you say a bit more? Could you kind of present the issue? Is she there?
I don't really have much to say. It was effective June 1
Mhm.
of this year. Students were no longer allowed to pay with debit or credit card at the business office, at the campuses, or over the phone. The campuses will have credit card devices in the business office for non-tuition and fees related payments such as room rentals, daycare changes, transfer, job fairs, employee health benefits, payroll recoveries, educational services, meaning haircuts, massages, dental clinic, etc., and access to other services on campus, for example, the gym at Manchester. Credit card payments cannot be processed at the campuses for the following student account items: tuition and fees, student activities, lost IDs, parking passes, library fines, proctor fees, CLEP fees, college for kids. Companies paying for student tuition and fees will need to pay with check or via wire payment. UPass replacements, lost diploma, old balances, all non-credit. In addition to that, there will be a charge of 2.95% or anything on a debit or credit card, or $3, whichever is greater. And what else can I say?
Okay.
You can pay for haircuts, but you can't pay for your tuition.
Can anyone else speak to how this is affecting students or what the alternatives are? Okay,
Can I ask what the rationale for the new policy is?
right.
You seriously want to know a rationale?
I'm still
The
naive,
fact that you can
Lois.
pay for a haircut or a massage, but you can't pay for tuition, there should be a rationale behind that.
So I've been searching agenda packets trying to figure out like how this came to be. To figure out that rationale, I haven't been able to. So I guess maybe between this meeting and the next, we can reach out and get a sense of why this is as it is and have further
I mean,
discussion.
one thing I could think of, and I don't think that this policy would be, it seems arbitrary and wouldn't address it properly. But there has been a problem with students who are not plugged in enough to the resources and financial aid resources available to them, who charge tuition on credit cards when they would have had other options that they haven't really been informed of. Or haven't learned about, and which can lead to problem, or and of course private lenders, predatory lenders, etc. And so I don't know, this is just speculation. Did the policy come out of a well-intentioned desire to address that issue?
It
I
doesn't
don't
seem
know.
well intentioned if they can pay online, but they can't pay in person. If they were in person, they could be told a lot of this stuff, but they
Right.
can pay online.
I see.
So it seems like we have a vendor that we are using. Okay, so yeah, let's find out more about whether there is some sensible rationale and who's profiting from this, and go from there. Okay, thanks Lois for bringing it up. Okay, the CSU resolution on gender affirming care, Brendan already addressed, so we're not going to actually present it today, but he's explained what the motivation is and etc. So we will carry that over to the next time if it's available then. So item 7, curriculum and shared governance. And that's right, Brendan, I see you pop back on. Anything else to say? Or actually, it might be a good moment if anybody else has any further feedback on the aim of that resolution. Okay, so we can move on to item 7, curriculum and shared governance. Okay, so this is just really an open spot for us to throw out whatever might be worth discussing and considering. There is an Acme Summit scheduled for October 31st. I know we've been monitoring Acme quite a bit, and we're planning to put something together about the process thus far, which has been all over the place, right? First, just absolutely frustrating. It has improved. It has changed. There's so much to be learned from the various growing pains we've had, whether it's from alignment of curriculum, the new transfer council, Acme, which whether or not it's working well, we still don't have an oversight committee aimed at with representative composition that makes sure that it actually conforms to the state statute that governs what kinds of curriculum we offer there. Yeah, so there've been various different struggles. I know there's some curriculums. Yeah, that's the alignment stuff, the Norwalk stuff. So I think there's probably a lot to be learned. We don't want to keep reinventing the wheel. For the most part, we do reach solutions, I think, if I understand correctly about the direction that Transfer Council was going. But hopefully we can maybe make some recommendations or some observations or something, or at least put our minds to rest to say that there is no problem there. So whatever it is, yeah, is there anything else that we need to discuss? And or is anyone familiar enough with the new curriculum process at CT State to have any sort of input or commentary on it? Because it is, what I gathered from the very long presentation on it is that it is different now. And that's about it. I think it's one of those things you have to experience it to learn it. So we will figure it out. So yeah, any commentary? Yes, Jen.
I wanted to ask a question of clarification about that
Mhm.
Acme piece, because you said there's no oversight committee. Are you talking about how back when PA 1240 happened, that was like legislatively mandated and there was oversight, and then Acme sort of took it over, but then there's no, is that what you mean?
Yes.
By,
Yeah,
okay.
that's
I
exactly
just wanted to
it.
double check there wasn't yet another issue. Okay,
No,
thanks.
that's exactly it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Matt.
Yeah, hi. So I joined the Curriculum Congress. This is my first semester on it. We went to our trainings. We just got our schedule of meetings and everything like that. So while I can't say anything about how different it is going to be, because I feel like I'm also the same as everyone else, sort of like voting on all these things and reading all these documents. But throughout this semester, hopefully I'll be able to provide a better sort of like updated process on how that's going for this group, for our group.
Great. Thanks. And I guess it is worth saying that we certainly knew that there were some improvements necessary in the first year or so, and work was done to make some improvements. We'll see whether it works out the way it should, but that at least needs to be noted. Mark.
Yes, I'm on the Senate, and I was at the Shared Governance Summit a few days ago, and it's not easy to understand, but there is the intention was to streamline the curriculum process because it was taking months for any new curriculum to make its way through. And there was also great concern that faculty weren't involved enough in the process. So all I can say at this point is that there is a new role in the process, and that role is called Curriculum Fellow. And they'll be the first person that someone that wants to change curriculum will be in contact with, and then it will be navigated through at a very local level, and then ultimately finally reach Curriculum Congress. The other concern was that a deluge of curriculum changes was just coming to Curriculum Congress during their monthly meetings, and they were kind of skimming through it all. And they're hoping that this new process will allow more depth of discussion at the local level, and with more of those people more pertinent to the discussion. So it's still early days, and it is not easy to explain, but I think the curriculum fellow is important, and giving more voice to the campus level is important. And it seems like this will make it go faster.
Okay. John, you put your hand back up, right?
Yeah. So, Mark, thanks. I think that's very helpful, and what Matt said too. I do see improvements, in this revision. There are still a few questions, one of which we were surveyed about, that could send this in one direction or another, on the question of whether or not large discipline groups, everyone in that discipline group should have a vote, or if it should be a representative democracy where the the CDC representative or whatever it is from each campus gets a vote. I really feel strongly that it should be representative, for a couple of reasons. One is that those people who are voting, the representatives, have been in the room and have consistently been involved in those conversations longitudinally, and it's their charge to bring information back to their campuses and take information from their campuses and questions back. But the other thing is that throughout this whole process of becoming CT State Community College, there has been the promises of properly balancing CT State as a whole with campus local culture and identity, and the idea that local campuses are cohesive units with agency in their own cultures. And so this is, culture only happens through actual actions and cumulative actions and policies, and this is one of those places where I think it's really important that the small campuses don't get drowned out because they only have 3 English professors or whatever it is. But that's just my opinion weighing in.
Okay. So what about at the universities, whether it's on the level of sort of transfer council type things, or even these, there were some hints, I think, in the public comment at the board from Central that there was perhaps some anticipatory compliance, right, with some federal stuff, right? Are there struggles there? Are they going through a process of shared governance, whatever, disagreements there are about the approach to be taken to the federal sort of threats? Or is there anything going on at the universities at the moment that we should be aware of? Go ahead.
So Central has rewritten its mission statement, I think, and its policies to be compliant with federal regulations. So our faculty Senate steering committee said that it's coming through the pipes probably, if not this meeting, then in 2 weeks, our next Senate meeting. And they're essentially just talking about really supporting our students. We're not allowed to really even talk about first-gen students anymore. And just being a really welcoming community or something. We also just got restructured to not have a Office of Equity and Inclusion. They've renamed that and given legal responsibility over all of our Title IX compliance, but they assure us that there has been no changes to the LGBTQ community support that we have, even though they actually eliminated one of our major staff members from that. And there's maybe we have a Latinx Caribbean space, and they're oh, that will also continue to receive support. That's their official messaging, although it seems like maybe their behind the scenes activities are not supporting that official messaging. And yeah, I think if you have been in any meetings with your administrative staff, there's an like a smell of fear in every single meeting. They are absolutely terrified. I think our university president is very, very afraid. So
Okay. But the process at Central is that is going to come to Senate. Senate will have at least some
a chance
response.
to
Yeah.
talk about it.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on this topic? We're getting right to the end of our agenda, so just want to slow down a little bit and make sure, because there's so much going on in reality. But I think we need the time to kind of organize our thoughts and do some actual real work on seeing how these things are affecting us. So, are we ready to move on from curriculum and shared governance? Okay, and I just want to encourage you all to make sure to respond soon, because I think we only have about 2 months before our joint meeting with the board. So if you intend to be part of the work group on the shared governance stuff or on the sort of board structure and funding conversation, please respond soon so we can get those meetings scheduled. And if you'd like to take responsibility for the scheduling and so on, by all means, yes. So that would be wonderful. Okay, so if we're good with this, moving on to old or new business. Any fun stuff we should know about? Just checking to see. I feel like there was one thing I didn't mention.
Did you want to talk about the elections at all?
Oh, right. Only to the extent that please do fill out the, I mean, I don't know if you have stuff to say, Jen. I would say just make sure to make that we have the most current governance chair, your local governance chair information in that Google Doc that I sent out earlier today at CT State, so that we can get a rep from every campus and then move on to the second step where we get the actual voting and alternates taken care of in terms of large, small, and staff. So please look out for that, and then I'll let you know when I'm sending out stuff to your governance chair so you can poke them and make sure that that gets done. Jen, is there anything I'm missing there?
No, but I'm happy to stay after the meeting for a couple minutes if you want to talk about
Okay,
what needs to get done.
sure. Yes, sounds good. Anything else? Oh, and I will say, I know that I think I mentioned before that one of the changes to the HEFSAB group is that apparently Brendan and I should be serving as part of that, in particular on the subgroup that concerns funding and spending, etc. We might get to have some the ability to chat directly with the people who are responsible for allocating our funds as to what those so-called reserves really mean. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. I don't know that we have been contacted yet about how to do that, but stuff is just getting going again. Folks are just coming back. So we will follow up on that and get back to you all. Thomas. Thomas has a hand up, and Mark. And I think, John, your hand is old, right? Or is that new? Okay.
All right, thank you. I was going to talk a little bit or make a mention of this earlier, but I was driving back from an offsite meeting, so I didn't want any background noise while I was talking. When you were talking about changes in the leadership in the system, I just wanted to point out that Ed Klanowski will be retiring from Charter Oak in June of 2026. So they are in the process of getting everything started for that search process. So I just wanted to add that to a note with all the other changes that were going on.
Thank you. Mark, and then James.
As a new member of this body, I'm just wondering about a couple things. These are just conversation points. Wondering if members of the BOR ever present at our meetings to give us updates on what's going on in their lives. I know that the co-chairs do a great job of summarizing all the multitude of meetings they've attended on our behalf, and I'm grateful for that. But I just wonder, aside from that, how much they know we're here. I'm also just concerned. I noticed that students have a vote on the BOR, but that the faculty does not. And I just found that very interesting as well, and whether that was ever something we would want to advocate for.
So we have before, and by we, I would say not the FAC specifically, but I know it's come up and in various bills from various folks about the FAC members having a vote. At the moment, the answer is that it's considered a conflict of interest because we are employees. But it would seem that it might be a conflict of interest also for students, no? So it is interesting. But that's where his stood, and it has been sort of not officially revisited, but floated quite a few times about that vote. In my opinion, having been, part of the group for this long, the burden of the vote, knowing that you'd be in the, significant minority, actually, and I was not particularly passionate about that, since we do have the ability to weigh in on certain things. But you're right. I think just in principle, it does seem odd. As far as, so we always like, I'm going to assume that when you say BOR members, you mean system office employees? Or do you mean BOR members?
Actually, members of the board, like maybe
Okay.
Marty Guay coming by or something like
Mhm.
that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I think he came by on, like, in the first month of his being chair or something like that. He came to sort of just meet with us. I know that he has had interest before in having an in-person meeting where we could get to know each other better, and that's probably well worth some effort. And then we have our supposed to be twice yearly joint meetings with the board. The next one's coming up on November 14th. But yeah, it's very rare for board members to come present, though it is usually common for system office employees to come present, and they're usually really, like, really, eager to come. They will make themselves available if nothing else, but I know that in the past we have felt that we spent so much time receiving information from system office that we wanted to keep that to a minimum. So we've gone back and forth on that. But I don't think we've ever had challenges in getting, system office leadership to come discuss with us any topic as long as we give them enough notice. So for either of those, but I'm wondering, like, is there a particular member of the board or is there a particular topic that you would like, other than at the joint meeting, you think it might make sense for us to have a conversation with?
The only thing that I was thinking about is maybe kind of like on a rotating basis, have one member visit and present, just introduce themselves, say why they're interested in serving on the board, what they like to contribute to it, what they see their expertise as, and then also just to listen to us and what our concerns might be back to them. I think it might be helpful. I don't know if we want them for the whole time, to just maybe to pop in, do a little introduction, get to know them. I think just the idea of building relationships could help to build influence as well. So that was just my thinking behind it.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think that's yeah, let's look into that and see how we want to approach that. And it just, as you say that, I see your hand up, Brendan. Is that in response?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just say two things and then I'll pass it to you. Just reflecting as you're saying that and about these relationships. I think we've been through a lot as a system in the past year. And it was really striking to me to hear a consistency in sort of our framing of our issues across that, the board this time. Whether it was was it Ted Yang? I think it was talking about the potential, while the new reporting structure for the federal government is a burden, that there is a potential for us to use the reporting, the efforts that we're making at reporting to further boost our case with the state for our need of funding. And that just acknowledgement that the state is not meeting our needs in terms of funding, I thought was important. And then I believe it was President Toro who just said it sort of flat out, like, we are not being funded at the level. So I think we're all at least willing to name that issue, which bizarrely is a serious advancement over where we have been, given that this is, once again, the Governor's Board of Regents. And it was refreshing to at least hear that analysis advance. So yeah, that was really helpful. And then there was, and then just to draw to our attention, I totally forgot to mention this. There is a new member of the board now who is used to be for some years a past chair of the FAC. So those of you who know Del Cummings, who served as the community college chair for at least a term, I think maybe a term or two, has now been appointed to the Board of Regents as a regular board member. So that's a new appointment and probably maybe an interesting place to start in terms of reach out. Sorry, go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah, just two things to follow up on Mark's question. I think it's also important to note that as far as I know, faculty have been, or faculty representatives have been 100% excluded from the board's executive sessions. And that's by choice, because the board does invite members of management to come to executive session, but I don't know that faculty ever have been. And if faculty were not ex officio and when did carry a vote, then they would automatically be in those executive sessions. The other thing I wanted to mention too on this new data requirement, reporting on earnings of alumni by discipline is actually not new. It's in the college scorecard system that the Department of Education publishes, which was an initiative out of the Obama administration. You can look up that data right now. It doesn't necessarily compare it with high school earnings, but this kind of data has been published for a couple of years. The issue, of course, is that we cannot actually, and I don't think we would ever be able to report to the Department of Education what our graduates earn. Instead, the way this works is that students that participate in federal financial aid programs are known, and the institutions they attend are known, as well as their social security numbers. And then those social security numbers are matched with majors as well as tax return data from the IRS. And that's what generates the data on the college scorecard about earnings by discipline. I'd imagine there's going to be that's, that piece of it will simply be extended and continue. Maybe it's slightly different now. I'm not entirely sure. But the key thing to keep in mind is that this is a sample, right? So it's only the students who participate in the financial aid program, because that's how they get the social security numbers to send to the IRS to get the earnings data. So the challenge there, of course, is if you know anything about statistics, when you sample things, there's error, and the unsampled student population is definitely different than the sampled student population, because the unsampled population is those who don't participate in federal financial aid. So I just wanted to throw those things out there. again, who knows how all this will shape up as time passes, but I wanted to share that, and I have to jump off in a couple minutes, so just wanted to say great seeing everybody and hope your semester's off to a good start. Yeah, and I'll stop there.
Thanks, Brendan. James.
Yes, I'll be quick. Great stats, Brendan. I love this stat. That was well put, man. I love it. That was perfect. I mean, I hope like half of people understood. These people understood that stats. Put them down, teaching them that. I don't think they really care, but that was wonderful stats. I love it. Okay, love it. Great, love it. All right. Yeah, I just love it. I'm sorry, guys. All right. Another thing. I just was putting on my notes, like it's about election, because on my campus we have not have governance meeting yet. That's coming up in September 18. I think I put on my calendar. So I know as Lantok we feel like a little behind. Some people already know the wheel there, but us we have not. Okay, so September 18 I will know. So the document that you posted. So once I know the leader, I just need to type it in. I don't need to email it to you. I just need to type it in on that. That's correct?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I finally was able to open it. And then second, now for the elections. So once I know the leader, then they are the one that's gonna contact you with the new member, like that they voted in. Is that correct?
Well, so ideally we know your governance leader's name ahead of time so that when you meet on the 18th, you'd be capable of doing an election. Because
Okay.
remember, ours are it's two stages, right? It's
Yeah.
every campus gets a representative, but then we have to determine who the voting members of that group would be. So I'm not sure I answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's correct. So because so they are the one that's going to elect the representative, and then when you guys coming in, that's when you do the elections for the voting member, which I understood that. So
Right.
now the question is, now I'm just hoping to catching up them on time, so
Yeah.
that way we can handle all of that business that same day, because the 18 when we meet, I know it's gonna be a long meeting, so hopefully
Right.
I can slide this into the agenda, so that way I can get that piece done, so that way you can get that information on time. Okay, so
Yeah.
that was perfect. That was the clarification that I need. So
Sure.
thank
And
you.
it would be really nice to do it, to get all of this complete in the fall semester.
Yeah.
Just because before we used to encourage people to start attending meetings even before they actually officially take on the role. That way they could just become familiar with all this stuff, because sometimes there's just a lot going on. But even if we don't, drop dead, we definitely by the end of the semester, we need to do the second half of it. But yes, as soon as possible is best. Okay.
No, I completely understand. It's just like,
Yeah.
getting them to be in meetings, because it's not easy that they have because there is so many meetings they have to attend to.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard to really get there, but I'm just gonna take that opportunity, the 18, to slide this into the agenda, and hopefully they
Perfect.
can get the vote right there on the spot, so that way I can take care of my campus, so that way you can get the result. That's all.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And
You bet.
Brian, I think at last check, Middlesex was not necessarily, or I know Tunxus has not had a consistent, or did not have a consistent campus leadership for a bit. How is Middlesex going? Do you have governance leaders in place? Brian, do you have local governance?
At Middlesex, I'm at Three Rivers.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking, that's right. Oh, it's the other Brian's Middlesex. My apologies.
It's a great place to go. Oh, yeah.
My apologies. That's right. So Three Rivers is definitely functioning governance. And then and Mark, you guys have a process now, right, at Tunxus?
Yeah, we always have actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
but we do have upcoming elections. So same deal. Our meeting is on the 18th, so I'll let you know soon thereafter.
Yay. Okay. So if that's it for old and new business, we can move on to whoever wants to make the motion of the day to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Lovely. and I don't think we need a second. So have a great weekend, all. I will see you all very soon. Bye.
Hey, Colina,
Thanks,
just wanted
Kalina.
to
Bye-bye.
say-
Thank you all.
Colina, it's Mike. I just want to let you know I had a department meeting at 1 to 2.
Ah, okay.
That's why I'm joining. I didn't realize you were already convening. I mean, unconvening. So
Sure.
sorry.
Well, we can chat a little if you need to.